right, looks like we have a pretty good group of people. I think we'll go ahead and get started. A few people might trickle in here as we go. But just want to say hello. I'm Jamie from Product Hunt. And today we're hearing from Sprig CEO Ryan and head of product Ning, because we figured who better to talk about building a product experience than Sprig themselves. So hey, Ryan. Hey, Ning. Thanks for being here. We're going to get started with some questions. So Ryan, the first one's for you. Can you tell us a little bit more about Sprig and just give us an overview of the product?
Thanks, Jamie, and excited here to be sharing about top do's and don'ts of building a product experience with Ning today. A little bit about Sprig is that we are a product experience insights platform. And so what we'll be covering today is a lot of what we do, and we'll be sharing best practices really of working with many of the leading fastest growing tech companies and sharing what we've learned along the way with each of you today. What Sprig is, like I mentioned, a product experience insights platform. We partner with analytics companies like Mixpanel and Amplitude, and analytics vendors tell you what your users are doing. At Sprig, we're really focused on the why. So really understanding the why behind user behavior. And so we offer 4 main products. Our core product is in-product surveys. And so these are very contextual in-product surveys that ask specific questions in the moment. So whether someone completes their onboarding experience, maybe they're in the process of churning, they're trying a new feature. Our second feature is session replay. And so recording user screens as they're using your product so you can see, and really as if you're looking over their shoulder, what's working, not working about your product experience. The third is prototype testing. And so we work closely with and have integrations with design tools like Figma and Adobe. You can take your concept or prototype test, take that URL, paste it right into Sprig, add some questions alongside it, and then deliver that prototype test to your customers to get quick insights on the designs that your team is working on. And lastly, which is very, I know, hot topic, is GPT AI. So we have AI that analyzes all of the user insights for you, delivers instant summarization of all of the user data that's collected in real time with Sprig.
Very cool. Thank you, Ryan, for sharing with some of us who are not familiar with Sprig. Next question is for you, Ning. Why do user insights matter to you in product road mapping, and why should PMs care?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I'm in product management for about 9 years now. Launched a lot of successful products, and at the same time, also there are some that didn't work well. So looking back, kind of like have try to understand what went well, what didn't go well. Is really important that we build products based on user feedback. So one example that I have is that we always look at kind of product analytic data. We always look at revenue information to see the end KPI of the product. But oftentimes what we're missing, like what Ryan mentioned, is really the why behind user actions. So as a result, I was really inspired to a product like Sprig, where you can actually go down to the why behind certain user interactions with your product. So as a result, the more that you can understand how user feel and how user, the reasons behind why they're taking certain actions, why they're clicking certain button, and also give you that contextual feedback using in-product surveys is really important for us to form a roadmap and also build product that truly based on what user really wants.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, one question now for both of you. As a PM, there's a lot to juggle. Timelines, engineering expectations, etc. So how have you as PMs managed juggling all of these things and finding time to gather insights? And then any specific examples that you have from either of your careers?
I'll kick off here, then I'll turn it to Ning. But before founding Sprig, I was a product manager at several different companies, and one of those companies is Weebly. And at Weebly, we had just launched a new iOS app. It was in all the TechCrunch, all the major tech publications. We were getting tens of thousands of downloads. And we knew that there were some opportunity to strengthen that product experience. We knew that there were some bugs, some edge cases that we didn't quite catch in our QA. And I know the CEO was constantly messaging me on Slack, asking, hey, what's going on here? How are we going to get this fixed? And so what I did was I didn't have time to set up, 20, 30 calls and uncover all those edge cases. And so what I started to do was I launched a quick in-product survey where I knew when users were having issues to really ask what those issues were and typed all of it to a spreadsheet. And it was a really powerful way to quickly and instantly understand exactly what was working, but also where that mobile app could be strengthened. I looked at all the issues, sorted through all of them, prioritized all of them, gave all of them to engineering, and within just a matter of weeks, we solved all those edge cases. We got all those little issues cleaned up and off the races, and back to, and ended up being an award-winning product that won award after that. Once we were able to get through listening to that user feedback and resolving those. How about you, Ning?
Yeah, I actually have two kind of tips. One is really collaboration. So I used to work at Uber, which is much larger product teams. We have an engine of, product analysts and data scientists. So at that time, I actually do a lot of collaboration with those teams to really kind of drill down to specific data, run specific experimentations to get to the root cause of certain challenges that we are seeing from the product data side. And then I would say one challenge that I have then was I use a lot of kind of like replay toolings to look at how people interact with the product. So the challenge I had then was, it's great that you can see how people truly interacting with the product, but it's really time consuming because you have so many clips to watch. So when Sprig here, we're thinking about launching section replay, but really attached to the in-product survey so that you can really kind of easily find, for example, people reported their experience is not so great. So you can just like target those replays to watch, or people who reported their experience was great. You can also just filter and watch those lists of replay to really kind of quickly drill down to specific insights. So I think that is really interesting way to, while you still do a lot of like homework to get to user insights and product experience, but is much, much more time, less time consuming.
Appreciate you guys sharing those experiences and many different companies that you've worked for. So I'm curious, are there certain companies where insights matter more? And I'm thinking here like new ventures where there's no room for failure.
We see it often by category. And how we typically look at the segmentation is less so on the stage of the company, although it's much more difficult for a later stage company to miss the mark than it is a little bit for an earlier stage company, just because of the inertia is so strong. But we typically see it as B2C, B2 SMB, B2E, and B2 enterprise. And so, if you are selling to, let's say, the government or large Fortune 500 companies, the user insights and user feedback is absolutely imperative. But where it is more important is when you get to the larger user bases and actually the smaller price points. And so when you look at companies in the B2B, B2 SMB, B2C space in particular, the larger the user base, the lower the price point. That's where the users are truly making their own decisions. And so if you're working on a B2C company, regardless of whether you're just getting started or regardless of whether you're already a publicly traded company with tens of millions of users, the B2C, B2 SMB, and in many cases B2B is where the user feedback and user insights is really critical. And that's because those end users are making the decision. And so if you're selling a meditation product for $8 a month to a single consumer, then it's up to her to decide whether she wants to continue, with that product or not. If you're thinking about selling maybe a large enterprise contract, you're going to look at the buyer. What's important to the buyer? Does it have the right capabilities, the features, security? And so at Sprig, what we do is we absolutely recommend it to all companies, but where we see the most impact, the most power is the ones that have those larger user bases that are quickly growing.
Very cool. Thanks, Ryan. Ning, I have another scenario for you. So put yourself back in your PM shoes. You're pressed for time. You've got a launch date approaching. and you've got some quantitative data that's signaling something negative like churn or lack of adoption. So how do you start talking to your users?
Yeah, that's a great question. Almost story of my life. I would say it's really important you ask the right question to the right user at the right time, right? So I think I give you one example. We're a product-led company. We have a free plan where users can experience the free product and see the power, get the value before they decide to purchase. So last year, as the economy kind of rapidly shifting, we started kind of like see some challenges in the conversion rate from free to pay. Not where we expected. So we really want to like drill down to understand the why behind this product data, right? So we look at mixed panel data and kind of identify some of the trend in conversion. So from there, what we really did is we actually launched an in-product survey on our plans page to right at the moment, people about to exit the plans page. We asked them, what's preventing you from signing up or adopting Sprig? So from that survey, surprisingly, we get a lot of like, so this is where you ask the right user at the right moment, right? And then from that survey, we quickly learned that people are actually more cautious about spending money given the macroeconomic condition. They're more cautious before buying anything. They really want to try it out longer, and they want to kind of like a ramp up before they're paying for, kind of like a larger enterprise contract. So that really kind of gave us the inspiration of like, we want to launch an on-ramp starter plan, really kind of like focusing on some of the starter use cases, like kind of smaller usage compared to our large enterprise plan, to really kind of help people on ramp and also experience the power of Sprig. So I would say that's kind of like a journey of where you first identify some of the quote unquote more negative signals using product analytic information, but you really want to ask the right question at the right time to the right people to really kind of help you understand the true cause in terms of how you can create some new features, new plans and packaging to address those specific pain points. Yeah, so now we also, in addition to the free plan and enterprise plan, we also offer a starter plan, which is really kind of like an on-ramp plan to people kind of try it out and get to know the product more before they go along, expand into a larger plan with Sprig.
I love that example. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
We do have another question from the Product Hunt community, actually. This was submitted, so I'll ask it to you, Ryan. How do we balance the need to innovate and try new things with the need to maintain a consistent user experience?
This is a great question. And, when we get into the do's and don'ts of building a product experience, we'll definitely be touching on this a little bit later, but I'll kick off with, the high level. And I think it is one of those balances and tensions that you're always going to see in product management. And as product people, there are always new ideas and new features that we want to build. Our customers are always asking for new features as well. And so it's tempting to build the new thing. And one of the breakthroughs in my career is an article by Andrew Chen called The New Feature Fallacy. And he's, one of the great thought leaders in the B2C product management space, and had been very early on with companies like Uber on their growth teams, really driving a lot of their success. And what he found in his career is that you often think that you're one feature away from achieving your goals or hitting that next phase of growth, or maybe preventing that layer of churn that maybe you are experiencing. And then the new feature fallacy, as he described it, is that you're actually not one feature away. And the challenges and focuses that he often saw were far more impactful was focusing on the core user experience instead of building that new shiny thing. And so I think as product people, the temptation is to focus on one new feature and we'll solve magically all of our customer complaints and issues will go away. But it's actually the inverse, where you want to really focus on that consistent core product experience and really driving that core product experience forward. And so we'll be getting this a little bit later, but setting up those continuous UX metrics. And anytime at Sprig, anytime we identify opportunities to improve our core product experience, that immediately goes to the top of our prioritization. And so, that's always going to be a focus for us and something we're always going to be driving forward before we reach for that new feature, so we can avoid that new feature fallacy.
Yeah, kind of building off that, Ning, I have a question for you. What are some best practices for building a strong product team? And how can teams foster a culture of innovation and collaboration?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think I will summarize two points. One is really use your product. And second is never stop learning. So the first one, really use your product, is so important. You'll be surprised. A lot of product managers, they launch features, but they never really use it themselves. So even we talk about, like learning from your users, I think you also want to put yourself as a user for your own product, because through that journey, you can actually identify so many interesting challenges, so many kind of like unique nuances, where your product analytic platform and even your product experience platform might not be able to tell you. So when I was a product manager at Uber, I actually signed up to be a Uber driver many times. I try to do that once a month. And then at Sprig, we as a product team, we continue to foster a culture to launch more in-product surveys, launch more replays, so that we use our own features so that we really kind of understand where some of the user frictions might be. And the more that you kind of like ask your team to do so, the more that we can kind of come together to really have a really strong learning about where our product is at, and also really help with some of the brainstorming innovations that you kind of like can stem from using your own product. And then the second piece I mentioned is never stop learning. So at Sprig, I think one of the value that I really like is never settle. So I think a few features that when we launched really early on, and we saw tremendous opportunity to continue to iterate and be much better. One of the features is actually AI, right? We were, when Sprig first founded, one of the early member was head of ML. So we always have like AI features. And then over time, we see how AI is shifting and shaping the industry. So we quickly plug into GPT-4, make AI much easier to use and add more value to our customers. So I think that's kind of like another example of journey where we never stop, even though we start with like a really strong foundation, but we always want to like kind of monitor where the market is going, where the competition is going, where the trends is going, what else our users want, to really continue to iterate and never stop at the existing features.
Thank you. I love that example about you being an Uber driver and the firsthand experience. It's very cool. Thank you both for answering my questions. I think we're going to move into the presentation portion now. And for anyone who's joining us, we will end with more of a live Q&A. So if you have questions for Ning and Ryan, drop them in the chat and we'll try to get as many of those answered at the very end. All right, over to you, Ryan.
Awesome. Excited to dig in here to 5 do's and don'ts of building a product experience. And then I'll turn it over to Ning to talk a little bit about the how you can actually gather faster user insights, how you can actually work through each of these. And then, we'll make sure we have some time at the end for questions from the audience. And so the don'ts, we'll start with what not to do. And the first one, and I'll run through each of these here in just a second. So I'll quickly run through to kick us off. But the first one, what not to do is sacrificing user insights for speed. The second one, leaving stakeholders out of the loop. The third one, relying on NPS alone. And then on the do's, what really, we encourage here at Sprig, what we see many of the leading companies, whether it's Loom or Dropbox or Robinhood, who use Sprig and really working with their teams, the things that we do see them do is really the rapid iteration. And that's one of our own values at Sprig, is to quickly iterate. We also encourage and also observe the top fastest growing tech companies constantly and rapidly iterating. And then the second two is getting to know your users. And usually there's far more to know about your users than you think. And so we'll talk a little bit about what it looks like to go deeper, to get that insight that ultimately will allow you to build that award-winning product experience. And so in the first one, don't sacrifice insights for speed. One of the common misconceptions about understanding users is that it's a trade-off. And so is it understanding users or shipping quickly? And what we're able to do, what we see the top tech companies do that use Sprig, is that they're able to actually find ways to get user insights and ship quickly. And so what we really encourage each of you to do is to find ways to be able to move really quickly, to make fast decisions, to quickly ship your product, quickly iterate on your product, and get user insights. And so there does not have to be a trade-off here in the decision making. You can achieve both. And a couple of ways that we see that, we'll be touching on this in just a second a little bit more, is using Sprig. And that's really what we're really about at Sprig, is getting fast user insights. And it doesn't have to be a trade-off. You can actually get fast user insights, and there is no sacrificing the insights for speed. A couple other ways that we see people getting continuous user insights is through a continuous user insights program. And so something that you can set up is, for example, you setting up a weekly call with a customer. And so what we do at Sprig is that we use Sprig to recruit people in our own product and offer them a $50 gift card. And the survey pops up on specific screens that we're looking to have conversations with people about. And so maybe we're looking to improve our AI. We'll have an in-product survey pop up. Hey, you're interested in a $50 gift card, spend 30 minutes with us. We have a couple mockups we want to show you. We want to ask you a couple of questions about our roadmap. And calls are getting scheduled on our calendar automatically. So regular, consistent calls are popping up on the calendar, and you're able to get that consistent source of user insights. And the last suggestion here, if you're early stage, setting up a design program. So getting those commitments from early customers. And then if you're a company that has already launched, setting up a customer advisory board, maybe offering them shares, offering a monthly or quarterly stipend, usually a few $1,000s per quarter, and really allows you to have customers on speed dial. You can constantly reach out to them if you have any questions. You can send things their way, send them lightweight prototype tests to get their feedback on their designs. And this allows you to not sacrifice insights for speed. The second one here, and again, a don't, is keeping stakeholders out of the loop. And so it's really critical to be focused on the problem when you're building a great product experience. And to focus on the problem means that everyone around you, whether it's your customers, your partners in sales or marketing or success, or different functions across the company, to work with you on the solution. And so the product management role, it's not about being an innovator. No one is looking for you to be Albert Einstein and coming up with all the big ideas. What you want to do is you want to surface the insights, you want to surface what's working and not working about the product experience, and then partner with those counterparts and work with them to then come up with those solutions together. And so to really get those ideas across the company, it's important to make those insights as accessible as possible to all the stakeholders at your organization. The third one here is relying on, and Ning, if you go to the next slide. The third one here is relying on NPS alone. And so Net Promoter Score, many of us still use it today. It was invented in the 1980s. So it's a very outdated way to understand the user experience. If you do some Googling, you'll see that the way that it's measured is outdated and flawed. The way that it's collected is outdated and flawed, and it is often misleading for how to measure the user experience. And a lot of people also send it over email. So once a quarter, you might get a Net Promoter Score email from a product that you might use on a regular basis. But there are so many challenges and flaws that I don't have to cover here in just the next minute or so. So I'll quickly run through is that one is that there's not really any context. And so you get that email, it asks you about the entire user experience. You have to think back to how the past months has been with that product. So not having that context of that question isn't really going to give you the insight that you're looking for to make those decisions that are in front of you in the coming days or coming weeks. It's also very incomplete. And so when you go out to email, you're only going to get a very subset skewed part of your users responding to that email. And then lastly, it's not going to be specific. So when you're working on a new feature or a new product area or understanding a problem, it's very rare that someone's going to be responding to an NPS question that's specifically about what's in front of you and what you're looking to achieve in that given moment. So let's jump into the do's. And the first one is to really iterate. And like Ning mentioned, like I've mentioned, one of our values here at Sprig is to quickly iterate. And you're seeing, many of you are probably using ChatGPT. You're seeing right in front of our eyes, they're rapidly iterating on their own product experience. They launch their model. They're letting anyone in the world use it for free or for paid. And the paid users, they're rolling out in a very small subsets of users, alphas and betas for their plus users to try. And so this is something that we see all of our top customers here at Sprig, the fastest growing tech companies, again, I mentioned like Loom, Dropbox, Notion, Robinhood, that are all using Sprig. We're seeing them rapidly iterate with their product experiences and launching their features in very small groups, usually behind a feature flag. And it's something that we also do at Sprig. We have several features in very small alphas with small sets of customers. And what we're doing is we're now quickly iterating once we have that core idea, that core basic version of that product in the wild, in customers' hands, and letting them use that product. And the last one here is getting to know your users. And so deeply understanding those users. And what we mentioned is that it does not have to be a trade-off for understanding user insights and also that speed. And so you can get fast, quick user insights at scale. And some of the reasons why this is so critical is that you, like many of us, know what our users are doing with our products. We look at our analytics dashboards. We know how many people are signed up yesterday. We know how many people are successfully onboarding. We know how many people are using our products on a weekly or monthly basis. But what's more important than what our users are doing is understanding the why and understanding why those users who signed up didn't onboard or why they did onboard, or why the users that did come back or didn't come back in a given week or a given month, what drove them to come back or what prevented them from coming back. Why we're maybe seeing lapses in user cohorts over time and what we can do to drive that engagement or what we can do to prevent churn. A lot of our customers right now, churn is a critical topic for them in the current economic environment. And they want to understand why their users and customers and accounts are churning. And so really digging in, going beyond analytics and understanding the why behind the user behavior is going to give you those insights to make those decisions, to work with your counterparts and to solve those problems that you're facing, at your organizations. And so I'll turn it over to Ning to dig into getting to know those users and avoiding those pitfalls.
Thanks, Ryan. So gonna go through a few kind of like technical ways that you can use some of the product experience insight platform or Sprig to get to know your user. And also gonna do a quick demo to show you what is it like to use Sprig for some of these use cases. So first, what Ryan mentioned is you do want to have a continuous survey in your product to learn about your users in real time. And I also mentioned earlier where you want to ask the right question to the right people at the right time. So this is really kind of like the true value of our core product, Sprig's in-product surveys to help you do so. So how we do that is we have a advanced event-based targeting technology where you can target specific users based on their attributes, for example, age, demographic, language, and all the user attributes that you are collecting, and also target based on their specific actions. So one of the examples that I gave earlier is if you want to understand free to pay conversion, you really want to ask people on the plans page, people who click around the plans page, scroll through all the features, but then they didn't convert. You really want to understand what were the barriers preventing them from signing up or adopting to the pay plan. So you can ask those in-product survey questions right at that given moment. And this is way more powerful than, as Ryan mentioned, sometimes you get an email NPS survey. This is actually way more powerful because you ask the right question at the right time. So we have actually data supporting in-product survey have much higher response rate compared to an out-of-product survey, so that you can actually get insights much quicker and more and richer insights quicker. And this is something that you can embed into both your web and mobile product as well. And last thing is we also deeply care about your end users experience. So we do have advanced recontact window so that you can choose a specific time frame so that you don't resurvey the same users over and over again. And second, really want to understand your users in terms of how they interact with your product. So we talked about you can actually see some of the product analytic to see conversion metrics, to see engagement metrics after people sign up to your product. However, you also want to understand the why behind those actions. So that's really kind of the section replay features that Sprig recently launched in beta can give you that perspective. So in our section replay, you can actually continue to leverage the advanced user attributes and events targeting. So instead of recording everything, you can choose to record after specific user actions. So using the same example that I just gave, if you want to understand free to pay conversion, you can target recording replay for current free plan users after they sign up or before they see the plans page, and set up those specific events so that you can launch those replays in really specific actions and moments. So this is also really important for product managers. I don't know about you, but for me, one of the challenge I use some of the auto replays product is I would collect, I ended up collecting thousands list of, minutes and minutes long of replays, and I didn't even know where to start. So this is really kind of like a feature that you drill down to specific moments, record specific moments and action, and you can also even attach a replay to an in-product survey. So you can filter down to people who, for example, saying that they're very not satisfied and watch the replays associated to that cohort of users specifically. So it's big time save for product managers, given our day-to-day already super busy. Next is our AI feature now is powered by GPT. So this is a way that we use GPT to summarize all the open text responses, generate themes, and also give you descriptions about the themes so that you can take really actionable product recommendations based on these summarized details. So in the past, if you collect many hundreds and thousands of open text responses, you need to comb through them one by one. But here, using Sprix AI feature powered by GPT, you can quickly kind of see the summary view. You can even drill down to specific responses and themes to see the raw responses as well. I'm going to give you a demo in just a second to see how that works. The second to the last one that I want to touch on is the community template. So oftentimes when we think about, certain problem or challenges that I want to launch a survey for, you don't know really know where to start. You don't know the right question to ask. But luckily, we have over 90 expert created templates from product managers and product experts, such as Lenny, who we all know, who's the author of the Lenny's newsletter. You can even create a template of your own to share with the Sprig community as well. So this is really kind of like a quick way to help our user, especially first-time users, to get inspirations in terms of what type of questions that you want to ask, what type of like surveys that you want to run. So for myself, when I launched the conversion rate survey, I was actually leveraging one of the templates as well. So this is a really kind of quick and easy way for product teams to launch a survey, because once again, we like to save time. If there's a template to help me quickly get started, that would be great. And that's the true inspiration of our community templates. And then lastly, product teams obviously use tons of, other toolings from A/B testing toolings, such as LaunchDuckly, Statsig, to communication platforms, Slack, role mapping platforms such as using Notion, Product Board, et cetera, et cetera. So here at Sprig, we deeply believe that we want what data that you capture using Sprig, you can also send it to like downstream integration so that you can have a holistic view in your end-to-end product experience data and product analytic data. So for example, our latest integration with Mixpanel and LaunchDuckly. So now the team can quickly use both product analytic data as well as product experience data to quickly identify areas for improvement, really also measure impact of changes, and slice and dice what people say in an in-product survey, as well as how they interact with your product from a conversion rate standpoint, demographic standpoint. So it's really kind of like a really holistic view for you to get product experience insights with Sprig's integrations. So without further ado, I'm going to go into a quick demo to see how all of these features work. Bear me 1 second. So now I'm logged into Sprig. This is our homepage, kind of give you an overview of like our core features. Similar to what Ryan mentioned, we have some flagship products, including in-product surveys, replays, and prototype tests, where you can test some of your design. So if you want to create a new study, well, I'm just going to go ahead and click new study. So here is where you see all the expert templates. We have the one that created by some of the most well-known product experts, such as Lenny, Ben William, also some of our customers too. So so you can kind of see some of the customer success story where you see how they use Sprig and also get inspiration for you. So I'm going to go back to the templates. So here you can launch a survey or replay or prototype test. So like we mentioned, replay, you can launch a standalone replay or you can attach a replay to a survey. So for this demo, I'm going to actually go ahead and use one of the templates. I'm going to use Lenny's templates. So here I can quickly say, use this template. I can quickly customize some of the questions that he had here. So actually everything looks good to me. Then I move on to the audience page. So we mentioned that in product survey, you can launch via web, mobile, or link. So I'm going to do web in this case. And targeting is really where you can set up kind of like the moment, right? Who you want to ask the survey to and when do you want to ask. So when, for example, if I use the same example that I use, I will do complete booking. So this is, you would show this survey when someone complete a booking. So I can add some trigger delay, let's say 3 seconds. And I can also add filters. So filters is where you add user attributes. So for example, language, I would say language equal English. And I mentioned replay. So currently in beta, so you can attach to a replay to this in product survey. So how it works is, for example, I'm in this case, I displayed this in product survey 3 seconds after someone completed a booking. But I also want to see how people interact with my product 3 minutes before this people completed booking. So I can actually choose, for example, 3 minutes before this trigger. So obviously, in certain use cases, you can choose after. You can also do before and after. So really flexible based on your specific use case. So in this case, I said I want to record 3 minutes before someone completed a booking. So yeah, then you can just launch a survey. That's it. Super simple. And in terms of results, I'm going to actually move ahead to results now. Discard changes. So in this case, I'm going to show you this example where is a in-product survey with a section replay. So I mentioned in certain example, if you only if you have a replay, you might have so many replay you don't know where to watch. But in this use cases, I will be able to filter down. For example, I only want to watch replays associated with people say they're not satisfied. So if I click here, then here I can see how people interact with my product after they for example, this is like where they say they're not really satisfied. So I can see the specific product interactions to help me get to help me understand the why behind the user sentiment. Okay, I'll close it out. And lastly, we have the AI features. So how that works is I'm going to go to this survey. So this is an example where I have I asked an open text question. What could we do to improve your overall experience? So I have like many open text responses here. So in the past, I would need to comb through, read them one by one, and then summarize them by myself. But here in this case is Sprig using GPT to group them into themes and also actionable insights and recommendations. So here you can also kind of click into it to see the sources of all the responses as well. So in this case here, we can see like most people responded the undo redo functionality is not it's not great. So now I can understand, okay, this is like where we need to work with the design team to potentially remap the undo redo functionality user flow. So really actionable that you can share with the team in terms of the insights that you gather. Great. So that's kind of the quick demo that I would like to show. With that, I will actually hand it back over to you, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we're going to go into more of a live Q&A session. And like I said earlier, if you have any questions, go ahead and submit them through the Q&A, or we'll try to monitor for comments too if you can't find that. But the easiest way is through the Q&A in the Zoom functionality. So the first one that we have here is just a clarification. So can you clarify the average 30% response rate for in-product survey bullet? Do you mean with Sprig, we can expect to see roughly 30% of the targeted users to respond to the survey, or what contributes to such a high response rate?
Yeah, I'm happy to kick off there. Platform-wide for logged in users, we do see over 30% response rate. We have some of our customers getting as high as 80 and 90% response rates on their surveys. We do see a high response rate for native iOS and Android apps. And that's where we see the 50 to 60% response rate for the native iOS and Android apps. And the reason why the response rates are so high, keep in mind that an email survey might have a 3 to 5% response rate, sometimes 1 to 3% response rate. And so with email surveys, you're going to get a mid to low single-digit response rate. The reason why it's so much higher within product, one, is that it's in the moment. And so just as you complete your onboarding experience, just as you complete, maybe you cancel a product subscription, you try a new feature, you add a new product to your online store, and you get these in-product surveys. I was actually using the Robinhood iOS app, and they offered me to do the options trading, and I said no. And a Sprig survey popped up asking why I didn't want to try the options trading. And so it's very in the moment, it's very contextual. And so that's why we see a much higher response rate. There's a couple of things behind the scenes that we do as well. The event and attribute system, you can get very, very targeted, not only when the survey appears, but who it appears to. And so maybe it's someone making their 5th trade with a product, or maybe they're adding their 10th product to their online store. Maybe someone creating an online store in that case. And because it's so targeted, it drives up the response rate. And then lastly, we do what's called a cooling off resurvey window. And you can set this platform wide. It could be 7 days, 30 days. We've seen as high as 180 days. And what this does is that if a survey is delivered to a given user, it'll wait for that time period before they're even eligible to receive another in-product survey. And because the surveys are spread across the user base in a very even, uniform distribution, it ends up delivering a much higher response rate. And the reason why the response rate is so important is that it delivers much faster insights. And so if you get that 30 or 50% response rate, you can often complete your surveys and get those user insights quickly, which is what we've been talking about for the past hour, is getting quick user insights. You can often complete those studies in just a matter of 1 to 2 days, and then make that decision and move forward.
Thanks, Ryan. Another one from our comments here. What is the difference between UX or CX with product experience?
Yes, this is a great question. It's generally seen as product experience and customer experience as two of the types of experience management. So experience management is the broader category. It could go even into employee experience, brand experience, product experience, customer experience. Here at Sprig, we focus on product experience and customer experience. And what the main difference is there is that customer experience is really measuring how a customer perceives a brand or a product experience. That could include the customer support, the service offerings, the loyalty to a brand, the perception of a product. And so that's really what the customer experience is measuring. The product experience could be around the examples like the pricing or packaging. Should you do a free trial or a free plan? Those are different examples of using the product experience to understand which version might be a better fit for the end user and which one might drive the business results forward.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Okay, one more from the thread from the community as well. Are there some real-world examples where initial product experiences were poor, but through feedback and iteration, they turned into successful products?
Ning, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think I can share two. One is really example of Uber Eats. I don't know if you guys were early Uber Eats adopters, but back in the day, the product was really clunky. The way that it works is you can choose from 3 restaurants every day, and then you pay flat fee, and then the menu is like pretty set. So we're seeing kind of like pretty low adoption there. And we really kind of try to understand why, because naturally thinking having food delivered to your doorstep is great. So from there on, the team actually did a lot of like kind of focus group, really look at a lot of the experience data, product analytic data, both quantitative and qualitative type of like data experimentation to really kind of get to, okay, people actually want more selections. That was actually one of the breakthrough. So that's kind of where you see today as a kind of a restaurant, many restaurant selections. And secondly, people doesn't want to be boxed into like choosing just one or two dishes. They want to actually be able to have a really broad selection. Flat fee pricing every day is not really what they want. They are actually want to pay, $30 if they just want a lobster roll that day versus you box them into only, 2 or 3 options. So that was actually a really interesting example where when you first launched a beta or MVP in San Francisco, it didn't really hit the mark, but we didn't really stop there, just kind of continue to learn from it. And eventually we all probably here order one Uber Eats at least once in our life so far, hopefully. And I think the second example here is here at Sprig. We think installing Sprig, installing the SDK, getting the data could be a little bit more technical and where we have identified as the highest user friction area. So that's where we, traditionally speaking, you do need to contact our team where we give you, specific guidance to help you install. But since then, we talked to user, map out their journey, use Sprig to understand the pain points and how users want to install. So it turned out they really want to get a step-by-step in product installation guide. They want to, install and then come back and see the status. They want to see, if it's 5 steps, how long is that going to take to have, really holistic view of how that work. So we launched a self-serve installation portal where people can actually just install Sprig by themselves during the free trial experience, during starter plan experience to kind of help them quickly install and activate. So I think that's the second example where, when the feature was first launched, it might not, be 10 out of 10, but over time where you can continue to use product analytic data, product experience data to kind of help you to identify the challenges, user pain points, and eventually make it to where it should be. So I would say this actually happened all the time.
Yes, those are awesome examples. I think we might have time for just one more and then we'll wrap it up. So the last question for you guys is, how do you prioritize and implement product changes based on user feedback and data?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. Oftentimes, I think the easy answer is like how big the problem is and what the impact of the result. So kind of a little bit of a cause and benefit analysis. So one example I would say is installation, right? Like it was such a big pain point where we have to let user to be able to install quickly. And once they install, they can use Sprig really quickly by themselves. I think that have been identified as where you can actually make investment and deliver really impact to the user. So I think ultimately the simple equation that I have, I don't think this is like secret sauce or magic, is really kind of how big of the problem and how big of the impact is. And for those areas, I will make them, our P0. Every quarter we go through, kind of like the roadmap exercise to look at all these potential features, all these potential solutions that we can deliver to solve for our users' pain points. But at the same time, we also analyze scoring them based on level of effort, urgency, impact, and look at that holistically to help us to kind of prioritize for the roadmap.
Great. Thank you. Well, that puts us at time, but thank you, Ning and Ryan, for sharing so much of your knowledge and experience. And thank you all for joining. Ryan put it in the chat. If you're interested in checking out Sprig, go to sprig.com. And yeah, that's all we have for today.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. It was fun, and look forward to seeing everyone at Sprig. And if there's any questions, you can leave them on the LinkedIn event as well. We'll look for those and answer them there.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.